Phone booth. Today's advanced generation probably never encountered an object code named the Soviet phone booth in the long-gone USSR. It looked like an iron-glassed box with a heavy telephone hanging on the wall. The handset lay on a hook on the side or top. A coin slot protruded from the top. A regular call cost 2 kopecks, a long-distance call 15. Calls to emergency services were free. In essence, today's payphones are quite similar to their ancient predecessors, except now they use credit and phone cards instead of coins. The structure lacked the elegant sturdiness of English phone booths, with only one wall usually covered in graffiti and symbols of various sports teams, and the glass often broken. These modest booths were placed near busy shops and intersections, next to cinemas and schools. In the 90s, they were all torn down, leaving no trace behind, only vague memories. That's why I was so surprised to see a booth hidden in the lilac bushes in the courtyards of Petrogradsky. I was rushing around on errands, an office shrimp with a briefcase and folder slung over my shoulder, and the booth was just standing there, minding its own business. It didn't seem to have been there before, and I stopped, marveling at this street relic. Had they forgotten about it? Well, it's a secluded spot. No one here but quiet drunks, and there are bottles glinting in the bushes. Sometimes you stumble upon places in St. Petersburg where time seems to have stopped. You can't tell what year or century it is. Overgrown, abandoned stadiums, schools closed for perpetual major repairs or former cinemas. Old peeling posters on the walls, rusty signs, nostalgia in full bloom. Damn nostalgia pushed me in the back. The door was rusty and wouldn't budge. I had to put down my briefcase and use some brute force. Amid an infernal screech and a cloud of rusty dust, I managed to open the door just enough to squeeze inside. The feeling was like being inside a glass hamster cage. It smelled of settled dust, heated asphalt, and gasoline. The phone was intact, with the handset and cord still in place. The round dial with slots and a metal stopper. Without lifting the handset, I inexplicably turned the dial, which responded with a half-forgotten buzzing sound. I imagined the scene from the outside. A respectable-looking guy climbed into an old phone booth and stood there like a complete idiot. A bit of nostalgia, and that's enough. Apparently, the urban dweller's conditioned reflex kicked in. If there's a phone, you must call someone. Or at least pick up the handset. So I did, brought it to my ear. Naturally, silence. In the days of my barefoot childhood, there was this peculiar pastime called the ether. Word of mouth passed down empty, unused numbers. You'd dial the number, first hearing long, busy signals, and then silence, broken by the crackle of static. You'd shout into the void, "Hello, hello." If you were lucky, someone else would respond, also dialing this number and aimlessly floating in the space of telephone connections. You could chat with a stranger from the ether, exchange numbers, and arrange to meet. Of course, there were scary stories about people who connected with the recently deceased or folks from future times, chatted with blockade survivors or pre-revolutionary switchboard operators. In the ebonite convex plate with holes resided the long-extinct, empty ether. The booth didn't even have wires leading to it. They had been cut or stolen during the years when the impoverished populace were collectively scavenging for non-ferrous metal scrap. I listened to the silence, idly jingling coins in my pocket, and wasn't surprised at all when 2 kopecks landed in my palm. Modern ones, nickel shiny, with St. George holding a spear and poking the dragon, not the old ones with the hammer and sickle. I dropped them into the coin slot. The coins clinked, falling into the long, empty collector. My finger turned the dial, dialing a number I had long forgotten, but my hand remembered. Jeka's number. My best school friend. Cheerful, laughing Jack, with whom I sat at the same desk from the first grade. With whom I exchanged books, and on long winter evenings, like 2 monkeys picking through fur, we meticulously crafted a model of a huge sailing ship. Jeka was a great kid, and would have surely grown into a decent guy. If in 3rd or 4th grade, at the very start of summer vacation, his parents hadn't taken him to their dacha. He went fishing with the neighbor kids, needing to cross a busy highway. And that's where a multi-wheeled truck, coming out of nowhere, hit Jeka. Instantly, fatally. Blood on the asphalt, screaming children, fishing rods and buckets scattered. 15 years ago. Or 20. I was transferred to another school, and it all faded. It was gone. The last click of the returning dial. Cosmic silence. It's silly to cling to childhood memories. I was already about to hang up the receiver when there was a loud crunch inside it. The ether filled with rustling, crackling, and hissing, through which a clear child's voice broke. "Hello. Hello." I'm listening. Hello, who are you calling for, Dad? I was stunned. Literally. The bright sunny day outside the long unwashed booth windows vanished. I was suspended in impenetrable darkness, trapped inside the iron booth, gripping the telephone receiver, from which the impatient voice kept asking. Hello, Mom, is that you? I'm fine, do you hear me? I've packed my backpack, waiting for you, come soon. Jika, I mouthed silently. The darkness outside thickened, the booth swayed, spinning around its axis. I was falling into a whirlpool of darkness, a futile signal that no one could receive. Jika. I was heard. From the underside of the world I was heard, and recognized. Lesh, is that you? Why does your voice sound like it's from a barrel? I first thought some grown man, got the wrong number or calling my dad. Lesh, listen, I'm leaving, I'll be at the dacha till the end of summer. If you want, come see me off, we're leaving at 6 heading to Finban. Jeka, I found my voice. Jeka, don't go. Don't go. Do you hear me? Tell your mom you have a stomach ache. Tell her you don't want to go to the dacha, that you'll die of boredom there. Don't go. It's already decided, came the dejected reply from the receiver. There were no camp vouchers, so they decided to send me to my aunt's place so I wouldn't be stuck in the city. You can't argue with Mom. You can't argue with Mom. His voice started to tremble and fade. You can't change fate, Lesha. Even if you really want to. Take care of yourself, you. Jaka's voice was drowned out by the growing howl and the agonizing screech of brakes clamped in a death grip. I distinguished the slapping sound of the impact. The receiver filled with a cacophony of desperate screams, and I dropped it. The flung receiver hit the wall and swung on its cord, continuing to sob and wail. Something was grinding and breaking. I was slamming my shoulder into the jammed door. It wouldn't open, and the disembodied voices were screaming hysterically. Something thick and heavy started dripping from the receiver. Darkness swirled and undulated outside the windows. The booth smelled of rot, and I was suffocating, distinctly understanding one more moment trapped inside, and I would definitely go insane, lose my mind. Go completely crazy. The damned door finally gave way. I tumbled out into the ordinary, familiar world. Fell to my knees, tearing my pants and coughing so hard it felt like I would turn my stomach inside out. A passing dog barked furiously at me, and its owner looked at me suspiciously. I think I crawled on all fours, whimpering, until I smashed my head into the wall of a building. I don't remember how long I sat there. Finally, I gathered my strength and stood up, barely managing to find my discarded briefcase. There was no telephone booth in the bushes, but in the grass I noticed the remnants of a brick square foundation. Something had stood there once, maybe a phone booth, or perhaps a transformer or a janitor's shed. I felt terrible, worse than ever in my life. With trembling hands, I reached for my mobile phone to call a taxi, cancel my appointments for the day. I pressed the call button, put the phone to my ear, heard the dial tones, and threw the mobile into the bushes. I couldn't talk on it. I was afraid of hearing the cosmic silence again and the voice of a long dead boy breaking through it, followed by the screech of a truck's braking tires. I was afraid of falling into the darkness of electronic impulses, bouncing in the ether and getting lost there. Lost forever, becoming just another ghostly voice. I was afraid, so afraid. And I'm still afraid. I can't bring myself to touch the smooth side of the mobile phone. I can't pick up the receiver. What if Zika speaks to me again from the dark void? What if it's not Jeka at all? How many are there, lonely, unable to say their last words, answer the most important call of their lives, forgotten and lost? And there's no escaping these damned mobile phones. They're everywhere.